All right, today we are going to show you the GitHub connector for Lilt. So first thing we need to do is go to github.com and sign into our account. Now that we're in our GitHub dashboard, we are going to go to our example repo that we're going to use for this connector video. So here's the repo we're going to use, and we'll click into this source folder, and we can see the test.md file that we're going to use here. Now this is just dummy text we pulled from the Wikipedia article for neural machine translation. Now what we need to do is go to Lilt and log in. Great, now we're on our Lilt project page. So if we want to set up the integration, we'll go up to the top right here, go into Account, and then go over to Integrations. You can see our GitHub connector is the third one down. We'll click here and enter in our GitHub credentials and personal access token. Now if you don't know how to find your personal access token, you can just click on this question mark right here, and it'll send you to a help desk article from GitHub to show you how to find it. Now we have to enter in a bit more information about the repo name, the branches, folders, labels, etc. So in this case, I'm going to enter in all that information about that repo I just showed you. Now under import schedule here, we can select one of these options and Lilt will automatically check GitHub every day, 2 days, 3 days, or once a week for new content. Now regardless of whatever we select here, there's also an option to force a sync at any time. So we'll select every day, and then let's choose Spanish. Great, now our GitHub repo should be connected to Lilt. So even though we set up the connector to check every day, in this case we want to demo this, so let's go ahead and force a sync by clicking these two arrows right here. Now that same markdown file that you saw in GitHub should show up in the projects view here. All right, we see that new piece of content, and in this case we're just going to accept all the machine translation. Normally a translator would go through this and translate this, and then a reviewer would go ahead and review it. But again, in this case, we're just trying to show the connector, so we're going to accept the MT. Now it's fully translated. Let's go ahead and review. Now that our content is 100% translated and 100% reviewed, let's move it over to the Done column. Now, being in the Done column is what will indicate to Lilt to send that content back to GitHub. So again, in this case, we've set Lilt to check for newly translated content to send back to GitHub every day, but we're going to go ahead and just force a sync. So we'll go back to Account, back to Integrations, and click that same synchronize button. So if we go back to GitHub, we should see that content. All right, so now let's go to our repo. And we'll see that this new translation branch has just showed up less than a minute ago. So let's click in. And you can now see that translations folder, which is what we had initially set up as the target folder for translated content. We can see that file that we just translated in Lilt has now been sent back to GitHub, translated into Spanish, and ready to be deployed. So what you've seen today is how the GitHub connector for Lilt enables you to create content in GitHub, send that content to Lilt to be translated, and then sent that content back to GitHub to be deployed.